wonder what I'm doing here in the woods, and I wanted to talk about a concept that I think is prevalent in the drum community. A lot of people are searching for those perfect double strokes. I don't think that's necessarily a worthwhile venture. Now, have a listen to this. All right, now have a listen to this. Which one of those sounds better to your ear? Which one of those sounds more human? Should we be striving for those perfect diddles, making that second note of your diddle stronger? I'm not so certain. The point in bringing you to the woods is there's imperfect beauty all around us. I think with something like art, music, maybe not shoot for perfection. Maybe perfection is in the imperfections. All right, let's go back to the house before I get more mosquito bites. Sticks up, shut up, and don't be perfect.
All right, I know, wardrobe change. I took a shower. Do we absolutely need perfect rolls, right? Do we need every note to sound exactly the same? I'm not so sure. I think it sounds better when there's a human factor to it, when there are little errors. Take this bridge, for example. When you look at it from, as you're walking on this bridge, on this boardwalk, it looks cool, right? Like it's got some, dare I say, vibe to it. It's kind of old and worn. It functions perfectly. It's solid. You weren't out there, but I was walking on this thing. It's solid as a rock. It feels good. It's got some history to it. It's seen some things. It's got a little bit of a soul. But when you look up close, right, it's got a lot of imperfections, but those imperfections are what give it its soul. So even though it's an inanimate object, you can get a little bit of an emotional response just by looking at it. And that's true for all kinds of things in life, things that we see. So to me, it's no different than music. I'm not trying to sound like a computer or a robot. I want you to hear me, right? In the music, I want it to be, and at the very least, I want it to sound human, because I'm not a robot, I'm a human, right? Even if I'm in a group of drummers, we're playing in a drum line and we're all playing roles together, we don't want it to sound like a group of robots. We want it to sound like a group of humans. We want it to sound musical and lyrical, for that matter. Personally, I think that it would be more worth your time to work on the 2-for-1, right? 2-to-1 ratio, the down and up motion of getting two notes for one stroke. I think that is a better use of time, especially if you've already built up some decent chops and you know how rebound works. Because remember, at the end of the day, all we're really doing is guiding the rebounds. So I'm not here to force a diddle either way. I don't want to force it to be loud, and I don't necessarily want to force it to do anything that it doesn't want to do. I want to guide the energy that I get so that I can get the best sound I can. All right, just for funsies, let's do a test. But first, we're gonna need some samples. So. All right, this is what I did. I recorded myself playing a roll. I used 8th note hand motion, giving me 16th notes at 160 beats per minute. Then, for the sample, I just played a bunch of notes rights and lefts, trying to get them to be as even as I could, and try to match the tone of the roll I had just played. So the same approach to the rebound, the same velocity, all that stuff. I tried to match it as best I could. So this right hand sound and this left hand sound is what I ended up putting into the sequencer to use for the other samples that we created. I don't remember a time in my early drum education where I was practicing accenting the second note. I remember hearing people talk about that and recommending that we do that, but I never thought it was useful, because even then it seemed like the motion involved in accenting the second note, at least at that point in my drumming career, accenting the second note of a diddle, the motion didn't seem to match what was actually happening when I played a diddle out in the wild, right? So like in the practice arena, like it seems like every time I've seen someone, teach the second note accent idea for diddles, it seems like they do that and then they're doing it at a slow tempo and it's okay, that's fine. But then when they get up to a faster speed, it either one sounds terrible because it just doesn't sound good that way, or two, they revert back to an actual more relaxed, rebounded diddle. So it's like, well, what's the point? What are you trying to do here? Before you start yelling at me in the comment section, I do know that people will teach the accent the second note of your diddle thing to work on strength for your second note. I get it. It's like, it's not, they're not saying your roll necessarily needs to sound like that. They're saying that it's, it's for strengthening your second note so that it sounds better than it normally would. The first one I made was all right hand samples, and I didn't change the velocity at all. It defaults at 60%. So I just kept it at 60%, used the right hand only, replicated the same rhythm, and this is what we got. Next, I used the same roll with all right hands, and I dropped the second note of each diddle down by 15%. And then at the very end on the release, I gave it a 5% boost. And that's what this sounds like. After that, I used the right hand sample and the left hand sample, and I split it up so that I was getting 2 right hand samples for the first diddle, 2 lefts for the second diddle, all the way down for the rest of the roll. It's the same roll, and all I did was change where the left hand would be and used a left hand sample. Now I did this one with all the same velocities, the default velocities, which is again 60%. And that's what this sounds like. Finally, for the last roll, I took the right and left hand diddles and I adjusted the velocities on the second note of each diddle, again dropping them down by 15%, and then I gave the release another 5% boost. This is what that sounds like. For comparison reasons, let's play all the versions back to back, including me playing a roll just straight up with nothing, just me playing a roll on the pad. So we're gonna play all the versions, including myself playing a roll. And if you can, put headphones on and see if you can, figure out which one is your favorite. Let's say that. Which one of these is your favorite? And leave a comment down below telling me which one's your favorite. So after all this, do we think it's important to learn to accent the second note of our diddles? I don't know. That's a question that you're gonna have to answer for yourself. If you're trying to go for strength, there are other ways of building hand strength and, being able to push a stick faster into the drum to get more energy out of it. And there are a ton of other things that you can do if you want to build strength. And I don't think that the focus should be on the second note of your diddle so much. As long as you have nice strong hands and you can push the stick with a solid velocity, a nice fast velocity into the drum, you're gonna get enough rebound back to make a substantial second note for your diddle. So again, is it worth it to practice that motion, that double, that accented the second note of a diddle? Is that worth it? Does it sound good? Does it give you the result that you want? And is the result we think we want actually the result that we really want? In other words, do I want my second note to be exactly the same as my first note? And I think for me in this experiment, the answer is no. I don't want my second note to be exactly like my first note. I want it to be a little less, right? To me, to my ear, it sounds a little more buttery smooth. And I think the proof is in the pudding. To me, my roll sounded just fine. It sounded pretty good. But when you look at the waveforms, you can see the second note pretty consistently is of a slightly lower volume or velocity. I don't know if they're probably related, but if you can see in the waveform, the second note of my diddle is slightly smaller than the first note of my diddle. And I think that it sounds human, it sounds great, it sounds buttery smooth. So you're probably asking yourself, what do I recommend in terms of alternatives to accenting the second note and developing a good roll sound? Well, first and foremost, I would say your time would be better spent playing, double beat exercises like A-B, right? Or moving on to something like shups. And the reason why is because A-B really gives you the opportunity to work on that down-up motion. Yeah, the spacing is weird because it's technically a 3-note spacing, right? You got the bop bop and then a hole, just one singular hole. It's not the same. But what you're working on in that instance is the down-up motion of 2 notes for 1 stroke, right? So A-B is a great place to start when working on this kind of stuff. And then shups is the tripletized version that I like because when you go from hand to hand, you get the double-double, right? You get the right, left, left, and then the left, left, right. So that kind of eases you into the motion of a roll. And then from there, you play exercises like gallop and 16th note rolls, chickenetta roll, or the triplet versions of all that. There are endless diddle and roll exercises that you can play. But to me, those are the fundamental building blocks of how to play a nice, buttery, smooth roll. And so if you practice those, along with other exercises that build your strength and understanding of rebound, then that's the way you should go. This weird inverted accenting the second note thing I don't think is useful. I think it's gonna create a lot of rhythmic problems that you don't wanna insert into your rolls because rolls are supposed to be buttery smooth, just like a dinner roll. Of course, you'll wanna do all of these exercises, A-B and shups and gallop and all the different roll exercises at different volume levels as well as tempos so that you can get a feel for consistency in your hand motion. All right, if there's something I missed, please leave a comment below if you want to have a discussion about any of the things that I've talked about in this video. I'd love to hear your ideas on my method here of a little science experiment. Hopefully I covered everything. If there's something I missed, I'm sure there are different variations I could have done, but these examples I did today, I think are the more, they're the broad examples of what can be done with a computer. And the computer honestly can get it pretty damn close with regards to making it sound human, especially these days. And I think that we did a pretty good job here today illustrating the idea of I don't necessarily want my rolls to be perfect, right? I want them to be pleasant to hear and smooth. And I don't think that smooth and pleasant necessarily means perfect. Perfect in the sense that a computer can make it perfect. Because the computer was perfect. And I was a little not perfect. But you know what? I think mine ultimately sounded better than the computer. What do you think? Put a comment. Let's have a discussion. So if you think I missed something, put it down there. All right, that's it. That's all I'm gonna talk about on this topic. Hopefully this video wasn't too long. Hopefully you hung with me through it. I think it was a really cool topic. If you liked this video and found it useful, go ahead and play a quarter note on the like button. If you didn't like this video and you think I'm dumb and all my ideas are stupid, go ahead and play a diddle on the dislike button. Don't forget to subscribe, bell icon, all that jazz. And yeah, that's it. I'll see you in the next one. Oh yeah, and those rolls at the very beginning of the video, those were both computer generated.